Hey everybody, Nick here, and I'm here with another episode of Ask the Nick, Volume 7 this time. Holy crap. Anyways, this is where I just answer viewer questions. So if you got a question for the Nick, go ahead and leave it in the comments down there, or ask me on the Instagram, where I am at Nick Shabazz. And by the way, I do post a fair amount on the Instagram, and so you'll kind of see what's on my review table, even if the review won't land for a little while yet. And, it's another way to interact. So if you give a damn, you're welcome to give me a follow there. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. So Tricky Ricky in the Sevens asks, what does your partner think of all the time you spend making these videos? With work, sleep, exercise? You think I exercise. Hobbies and daily chores? Surely this must be eaten into your time together. Well, that's a good question there, but honestly, it's not a big deal. She's a busy gal. She's working and going to school, and at the same time, so very often when I'm filming, she's either at work or she's in the other room studying, something like that. So it doesn't really cut into it that much. And some nights I will be, if we're watching something I don't particularly give that much of a damn about, I will, be kind of handling, looking over some piece of gear and writing up my review on my iPad. But she seems to be okay with it. She's really amused by the fact that I've got this kind of a following on the YouTube, and offers her opinions. I'll ask her, hey, what do you think of this knife? And oh, I love it. She'll sometimes say, oh, that's douchey. Either way. So it's a nice thing there. But she doesn't seem to mind being the partner of the Nick, and go figure, right? She's a gem. So Cedric 8 asks, does your partner carry a blade? Yeah, actually, she does. She, in her purse, carries a ZT 0350. That's right. My fiance is more hardcore than I am. She carries that particular blade because she likes a flipper. She likes the assist, and she likes the fact that it's a fairly tall blade, so it fits nicely in her hand to her taste. I don't get it necessarily, but hey, she enjoys it, so why not? And I can get it nice and sharp. It's quality blade, I suppose, just not to my taste. So Small Town Prep says, you've mentioned your fiancé several times, so I'm guessing a wedding's in the future. Yep, some point, definitely. Will you be giving your groomsmen a small folder as a gift? If so, which one? Honestly, I haven't gotten there yet, and I haven't chosen groomsmen. We're looking at a really, really small wedding, and a big question is who's going to be able to come. And so it really depends. Some people, yeah, totally. Other people aren't necessarily knife folks. So I'm probably going to do something vaguely EDC gear-like, because, do what you know. But it's going to have to be very personal. Rather than just, get everybody, I don't know, Sleesh Bowie, I wish I was that rich, and call it a day. Something like that. But either way, that's a good question. It's a great idea for a groomsman gift, but alas, I just don't know who's on the list yet, so I can't really answer the question too definitively. But personal is always a beautiful thing. Moving on. So Waves264 asks, Nick, what YouTube channels do you subscribe to? Well, I subscribe to a fair number of channels. What I gone ahead and done is made a playlist over here that is called Nick's Favorite EDC-related YouTube channels. I know, really creative, right? But in there, I just list one video from each channel that I really recommend that all of my viewers subscribe to. That said, there are some other channels I subscribe to, and there are some other ones that, aren't really related to this. Like, I'm a big fan of the Awesome Games Done Quick speedrun channel, because I'm a giant nerd like that. And there are other random things I follow. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that I don't watch all that many knife reviews, partly because I do enough of it on my regular basis, and partly because I want to be independent. So there are a lot of good people out there who I don't have listed because I don't really subscribe that often, like the Waves264, Nothing Fancy, Toad Sticker, all kinds of folks out there that are making good reviews, but I just don't end up watching all that often. But yeah, so that's my channel list. Just check it out over there. Hopefully you'll find some gems. So Toad Sticker asks, speaking of people I subscribe to on occasion, obviously you like titanium frame lock flippers. What's your second favorite kind of locking mechanism? Good question. Second favorite for me has got to be the compression lock by Spyderco, because it does have that joyous thing of your finger doesn't ever need to be in the blade path. I like that a whole lot. That's a beautiful thing, and so I really hope Spyderco keeps going with the compression lock and starts licensing it out more. Speaking of which, I've just ordered an SK23 knife from Smock Knives, which is going to be interesting. It's a compression lock knife with a button lock built into it. and it should be interesting. It's a custom. It's going to take a while, maybe saying up to a year. But either way, it's on my list, and I'm really excited about it. So compression lock is definitely second place, and third place for me, honestly, would probably be a good backlock. Because backlocks have a lot of benefits. They're very strong, and they're very simple. They're easy to take care of. And so I'd like to really see a renaissance in backlocks in modern folders. They don't go well with flippers and things like that, but there's just a lot of good there. So there you go. That's probably my second favorite, and my third favorite behind your titanium frame locks would be your compression and then your backlocks. Good question. So Jürgen Sandstrom asks, Nick, have you ever had a nickname? Yeah, my name, Nick, name. Get it, Nick? No? Okay, I tried. But if so, yes, what and why? So, actually, in high school, I was referred to as Squirrel for a long time there. It just kind of stuck around, and a group of seniors, when I was a freshman, dubbed me the Squirrel. And, it worked, and I don't mind squirrels. I like squirrels a lot, actually. Big squirrel fan. Prairie dogs too, but that's beside the point. So yeah, that was my nickname in at least a pretty decent chunk of high school, was Squirrel. So there you go. Good question there, Jürgen. Hope that was interesting. So Gamma Ray Burst, which is a very scary nickname, asks, hey Nick, does weight mean a lot to you? Does it make or break a knife? I mean, weight is interesting. So actually, I'm recording a segment with Kevin Cleary and some other knife guys on the YouTube, talking about worth the weight, basically tools that are really worth the extra weight. And what I brought up there, and I'll post a link to it when it happens, is this little guy, the Graham Razel. This is a heavy knife. We're coming in at 6.4 ounces here. That's a whole bunch of weight. And so the thing is, though, this knife is 100% worth it. It's a great tool. It's beautifully built. I love this knife, and so I carry it even though it's absurd and heavy and whatnot. So, yeah, weight's important, but at the same time, do I like a knife that's pretty lightweight, like your Delica here? Sure, any day of the week. Weight hasn't really made a knife completely a non-starter for me in a while, if it's good enough. I mean, I've had heavy, crappy knives, but one example would be the Spyderco PM2 with some copper scales put on it. At that point, the PM2, one of its joys is the fact that it is not that heavy, even though it's pretty big. But once you put the copper scales on there, it went to like 8 ounces or something like that. And it was absolutely absurd. And it just it didn't justify the extra weight. The extra awesome didn't outweigh the weight. And so it just didn't come down to it. But anyways, keep an eye out for that worth the weight thing. It's going to be excellent. And I hope this has been interesting to you there, Gamma Ray Burst. And I guess awesome means more than weight to me. Great question. So Denton asks, Nick, what's your opinion on neck knives? So for those of you who not know, a neck knife is a little knife that you has a little sheath, and then it hangs around your neck, basically. And honestly, I have never found any reason to give anything resembling a damn about a neck knife. I've never been in a situation where I thought, wow, I wish I had a small knife hanging around my neck. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I guess that's my opinion, it doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe if I needed a backup blade for whatever reason, that could work. But I tell you what, viewers, if any of you regularly use a neck knife and really feel like it's a great idea and a great tool, tell me why in the comments, because this has completely escaped me. I got no idea why you would neck knife, and so, yeah, maybe I'll learn something here. But good question there, Denton. I guess my opinion is I just don't care. So Rich Cacone asks, Nick, what do you think of Invicta watches? Funny you should mention that. Just today, the news broke that Glycine, which is a well-known and much-loved watch brand, got bought out by Invicta. And the watch world is pissed, because by and large in the watch world, Invicta is not well respected. A lot of what they do are homages of other famous watches, and a lot of what they're doing that's unique is a little bit on the tacky side. The quality isn't generally viewed as being there. The pricing structure is absolutely wacky. They're one of the people who do like, oh, the MSRP is, $2,000, but we're going to sell it to you for $250 just today. Like, no, that's the actual price that you always charge, and guess what? You paid $20 to make the thing. But you're not getting really high horology with the Invicta. If they got something you love, okay, consider it. But realize that there are a lot of really good options in the Invicta sort of price range. If you pay $30, you can get something that's pretty damn good. If you pay $200, you can get something that's really good, or $350 or whatever. And, even in the 500s, you can get some incredible watches there from companies like Casio, a Seiko, a Citizen. And you'll end up with something that's a little bit better quality with better features than Invicta's going to offer you. So, I guess that's my overall feeling is I'm not a huge fan, but you could probably do worse as well. Hope that's helpful. My buddy Ian over at Tekken Tools asks, is stropping more ideal for a blade's edge than sharpening? I mean, yeah, generally, if you're just trying to maintain the edge, stropping's a kind of way to do it. At the end of the day, sometimes you do need to sharpen. If the blade is actually dull and there's no edge to maintain left, then you gotta sharpen. That's just a fact of life. But very often you can get away for a long, long time just by stropping the knife. And stropping is where you take some piece of, usually it's a leather, mount it on something or another, or as a belt, and then you grease it, you put some compound on there that's got a little bit of fine abrasive, and then you just slowly and gently drag the blade along the strop. And by doing this, you're basically aligning the edge nicely, and you're using just a little tiny bit of that grit to make the edge a little extra keen. There's certainly a trick to this, and it helps if you stropped other things, like I strop straight razors regularly, so it makes it a little easier. But stropping is a much kinder thing to do to the edge because it doesn't remove that much material. And so by stropping, and then every so often, if the edge gets, a little bit more damaged, I'll use this ceramic rod and just run the knife like this guy here. And that'll help to put a keener edge on there, a little bit of a micro bevel. By stropping and doing that, I can get away without sharpening for a long, long time. And the longer you can get away between sharpenings is generally a better thing, because it wears less on the knife and makes everything just a little bit better. So, and definitely, if you can strop to maintain your edge, you definitely should. And sharpen only when you really need to sharpen, so you're not taking too much material. Great question. So, Mr. Captain 93 asks, Nick, what's your favorite sport and why? Well, this is a pretty good hint here. I'm a baseball guy. Partly because it's a sport I can actually kind of play, not competitive or anything, but I was on a beer league softball team throughout grad school. Brought me a lot of joy. Anyways, it's a beautiful thing because, it's a little more relaxed. It's a little bit more, you get the sense that there's a lot of competition, but there's still a lot more fun, and it's a lot less brutal in a lot of ways. Watching, for instance, American football, I just feel like, oh my God, these guys are just getting concussions for a living. And that's ugly. I have trouble looking past some of that. And it's their lives. They're welcome to do what they see fit. But I much prefer baseball, where there's a lot of athleticism, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of knowledge, but it's less like absolute violent to me. So for me, baseball comes across as just, I don't know. It's a sport that appeals to me a lot more. Also, yes, I did relace my baseball glove in paracord. The leather came out, and actually it's worked like a charm. So there you go. So my favorite sport is definitely going to be a baseball or your softball. It's all good to me. And hope that's interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Captain. Let's move on. So Cedric Ada asks, what would you buy a non-knife person as an introduction to the knife world? Honestly, it depends on the person. If somebody's interested in starting to carry a pocket knife and wants to kind of get into knives, I'm going to go with either the Rat 1 or the Rat 2, depending on their area and their size needs. Because these are both very safe knives. They've got no real problem with them. And they're excellent in quality. They're a good gateway. They're a good entryway. I'm not handing them junk or anything like that, but they're still inexpensive. So if they lose it, no biggie. So that's going to be my choice for the first knife for somebody who wants to get into carrying a knife. But on the other side, you get the people who are really kind of scared of the whole knife thing. Like, oh my God, that's a weapon. And so if you hand them something like this, they're not going to carry it because they don't, like, oh no, that's way overkill. That's where the Spyderco Dragonfly is pretty much perfect for these folks who need a cutting tool and are realizing that, but are still scared of the idea of carrying a knife because it's small, it's unintimidating, on my side, I know that it's safe, that they're not going to hurt themselves with it. Particularly, it's got a nice safe backlock. It's a good quality cutting tool, and it's still unassuming enough that they're going to feel okay carrying it. Maybe it's a gateway, and down the road they look into the Delica, or they come back and say, "Hey, Nick, that's a neat little tool there. But I need something a little bigger," and then I've won. But nonetheless, the Dragonfly is always my recommendation for somebody's first knife if they're not looking to get into knife culture, but they do want to get into a decent cutting tool. Hope that's helpful, Cedric. Good question. So, Lacostia Hater asks, Nick, could you review a chronograph? Do you like them? Well, a chronograph, for those of you in the know, is basically a function on a watch that marks the passage of time from a specific point. So in this case, it's digital. This is just a stopwatch. But you get analog watches that have little hands that move over time, and you can get a quartz chronograph. You can even get a mechanical chronograph, like your Omega Speedmaster or otherwise, your Rolex Daytona. And mechanical chronographs are interesting, but honestly, I'm not a big fan. Everybody carries on them a smartphone, which can work as a stopwatch in a pinch, so that's one thing. But the thing is, when you add a chronograph to a mechanical movement, you're really increasing the number of parts, you're increasing the complexity, you're just adding a whole lot more to the whole affair. And both in terms of finance and in terms of fragility, by and large, there are definitely durable chronograph movements out there. But by and large, it's not something you're going to use all that often, but it is something you're going to pay a lot of money for, both when you buy it and when it's time to service. So I generally do not recommend that people buy a chronograph watch unless they've got a lot of need for it on a regular basis, or unless they really love the idea of adding that complication to the watch. So, no, I'm probably not going to review many chronographs. Sorry about that, Lacostia, but there you go. That's my feelings on the matter. And it took me approximately 1 minute and 18 seconds to say that. Hey, beautiful thing, right? All right, moving on. So John Tedichwan, who's a longtime viewer, and actually posts some really good comments every so often. You'll see really big, long comments, but they're usually excellent. Keep an eye out for him. Asks, Nick, are you into male fashion? Do you follow any channels related to that? He says, big EDC channels focus on knives, but not a lot on everyday clothes. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, I do not understand fashion in the least. I have absolutely no intuition for any of this. The closest I'm ever going to come is talking about, like, handkerchiefs to carry. And that's mostly because I'm a sweaty bastard, not for fashionable reasons. Although, who knows? Maybe little running plovers coming in. Then maybe that's hot for this autumn. I don't know. But anyways, for my personal fashion, I use what's called a capsule wardrobe, where I have, 6 shirts and 6 pairs of pants and shorts that, fit nicely and that are fashionable together according to the fiancé. And every morning I get out and I grab a shirt and I grab pants and I combine them and I am done. That's about as far as I go, and then I got a set for the winter as well. I fundamentally don't get it, and in any question of fashion whatsoever, I just defer to the fiancé because it just doesn't make sense. So, sorry, John, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to give you fashion advice, but on the bright side, you're not going to be getting fashion advice from me, and you won't end up looking like an idiot. So, yeah, it is a little weird that doesn't go there in the EDC world, but at least in my case, there's a damn good reason why. Hope that's interesting. So John also asks, do you own any hair trimming products at all even? Manscaping, chest hair, arm hair trimming? It looks like you could use some Phillips body groom over there. Or are you the grizzly type of guy who thinks hair is a definite must? No, John, I am just a hairy bastard, flat out. I mean, one day I took my shirt off when hiking in the Appalachians, and suddenly everyone's talking about a Sasquatch. I don't get it, but it's the case. I mean, you all know this. Come on, look at that. And so I do own hair trimming products. I shave every day with a double-edged razor here. This is a Mercure Futur. And I do also have a straight razor that I use. I only use it when I'm not in a hurry, and that's unfortunately not that often. But nonetheless, I do have that, and I also do have a beard trimmer for basic manscaping, but it's just a losing battle. I'm a hairy bastard. That's just the nature of the beast. It's not because that's a must for my masculinity. My masculinity ain't quite that fragile, but it's just a biological fact for me. Sorry, John, I'm afraid the arm hair's not going anywhere anytime soon. You might want to just skip the watch reviews. So John Tedichwan continues his dissection of my lifestyle, asking, do you even lift, bro? Seriously, you do any daily sports, an hour a day or something like that? No, not really. Unfortunately, like I said, I'd love to be on a softball team, but I haven't found one here yet. I am a big fan of walking, so I walk to work a lot of days, and that's about an hour and a half when I do it, walking, and God knows in this weather, oh man, it damn near kills me, but that's okay. I also have in the past done some martial arts work, some Tai Chi, so I'm not like a high-speed, low-drag Mall Ninja type, and some Taekwondo, but I'd love to get more into that. Specifically, Aikido is pretty interesting to me. Yeah, so I don't do as much exercising as I should. I know that 100%. And honestly, a lot of times when I'm doing it, I feel like I'm wasting my time because I got 50 other things I need to be doing right now. And so I just need to get past that. But you raise a good point. Maybe I should lift, bro, or something like that. Anyways, hope that's interesting. Finally, the great Houdini asks, how would you design a weapon? A true weapon, not a tool like we carry on a regular basis. Well, Houdini, I put a lot of thought into this, and damn it, I want a lightsaber. Like, flat out. Seriously, guys. Physicists, engineers, whatever. Get on this. It's 2016. How do we not have a lightsaber by now? Because this would be, like, perfect for the channel. Absolutely 100%. Because it's like a knife review and a flashlight review all combined into one. And it's a laser pointer, too. I imagine if you turn it down, I hope. Just got to remember to turn it down. Our presentations get really awkward. But anyways, I think a lightsaber would be the absolute perfect weapon for me because you could carry it nicely. It's small for EDC purposes. It's not so intimidating until you got it deployed. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So damn it, Houdini, I want a lightsaber. Somebody out there, if you've got one that you're working on in your garage, send it my way. I will totally do a review. And I will be really confused when I go to start talking about the steel and there isn't any. But, yeah, anyways, so a lightsaber, 100%. Purple blade like the Mace Windu. I think that'd be excellent. Or maybe Z Hunter Green. There's a lot to be said for Z Hunter Green. Either way, so yeah, that's my perfect weapon, Houdini. 100% a freaking lightsaber. Get on that, scientists. Anyways, I hope this has been interesting to you. And if you got further questions, go ahead and leave them down in the comments here. And thank you very much to everybody who asked questions. And hope this was interesting and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. And that if you find the lightsaber laying in the street, oh man, I want a loner. Please, let's talk. Bye now.